Welcome to Upstream Ahead Virtual Summit 2022.
Welcoming everyone to session 3 of the day. Here, the esteemed panelists are going to speak about expeditious monetization of non-producing discoveries. We have Dr. Anand Gupta as the chair for this session. And for the co-chair, we have Mr. Yash Malik. Mr. Yash Malik is a highly experienced professional with a comprehensive and keen understanding of the energy business with active interest in upstream oil and gas. After more than 36 years of service with a public sector giant, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation Limited, in the energy sector, superannuated in March 2018 as Executive Director, Chief of Corporate Planning in ONGC, served as Advisor ENP, Directorate General of Hydrocarbons, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas for 2 years, presently working as Independent Director in NETC. Sir, may I request you to commence the session, please?
Thank you, Chandrima, for the introduction. Welcome all to the third session, Expeditious Monetization of Non-Producing Discoveries. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. Anand Gupta, who's a passionate industry professional with deep expertise across entire spectrum of E&P business, including strategy, field development and operations, project implementation, production enhancement. He is currently holding the post of Additional Director General Development in DGH under MOPNG. I invite first speaker, Padma Shri Dr. Ravi Bastia, so Dr. Ravi Bastia will be sharing his expertise on revival of Amguri field. Dr. Bastia, please.
Distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be speaking on this prestigious forum today. Friends, the entire globe is running through a very difficult time. The imbalance in the geopolitical relationship amongst the superpower is causing the crude price jumping up heavily. The developing country like ours, where energy is so critical for our growth, each drop of additional hydrocarbon is like elixir to life. In this context, I will share Oilmax experience of an exciting journey that is in Amguri field, Assam. My title of the topic will be Awakening the Field After a Decade of Dead Sleep. Let me start with a picture. I am showing two pictures. One before, at the time Oilmax took over in 10th May 2021. And the second picture is just 50 days later when Oilmax took over and started production in this. So the field, which was filled with deep bushes and jungles, for 10 years no operation, would see the light not only in the operation but also the production in 50 days time. Each picture tells a story. These are the surface facilities, starting from the pipeline to the tank farm, wellhead to the separator. You can see the difference which it means in 50 days time. We are extremely proud, and when we look back, we get surprised how this magic happened. Friends, this magic didn't happen only by our efforts. The tremendous support of MOPNG and the DGH team, led by Dr. Gupta, is unprecedented. And that was the reason this field could so quickly brought back into the production. Little bit of the highlights and the story of the Amguri. ONGC drilled the first exploratory well in 1965. After drilling 8 new wells, this was awarded to Assam Oil Company and Joshi Technology in the year 93-94. In 2001, this PSC was signed between Kannaro Resources and Assam Company. And between 2011 to 2021, the field was shut down due to some legal complications. After Oilmax took over, 5th April 2021 was the PI application date. 10th May, the PI was approved. 30th June, production started, and 1st October 2021, the field was put on the commercial production. And all these achievements were noted as the team had to work during the toughest time of COVID pandemic, state lockdowns, and the prevailing monsoon. And the efforts of the entire team, along with MOPNG and DGH, are commendable. Amguri field at a glance. The field is located in the Assam shelf, 35 kilometers from Jorat. The block area total is 52.75 square kilometer. The main pay zones are in the Barel and Sipam. The total producing wells are 6 out of the 17 drill. We have reached the current production of 500 barrels per day and 6.5 million metric standard cubic feet of gas per day. And this is due to some constraint in our gas cell at the moment. But the peak production in this field is expected to be 2,500 barrels per day oil and condensate and 30 million standard cubic feet per day of gas. New additional plays in multiple stratigraphy have been mapped, and I will show you quickly how we have mapped those prospects. This is a subsurface workflow which we follow, starting from the GNG review to the log analysis, the seismic data interpretation, and we heavily dependent on the seismic different attribute analysis, and all the attribute analysis, they collect together to bring the story to a geocellular model, and then from there to the reservoir simulation, and then the reserve estimations and the final development plan preparation. We are ready for the final development plan to be submitted by the end of this month. For your information, we have already submitted our assessment for independent evaluation, and after that, we'll be in a position to submit the FDP in this field. Some of the insights from different studies I will now share. This was the log which we got at the time we have taken over the field, and this is in the left-hand side. The new log interpretation based on the current data set, as well as the interpretation process techniques, the field, all the data were converted after digitization and processing. And they could show us not only the existing page are having better thickness than expected, but there are some new page which are identifiable in those wells also. I am showing you only few examples where we can see the additional page distinctly possible to be interpreted on the basis of the new log interpretation. Similarly, we see a sea change in the seismic data quality and its interpretation. Starting from the ONGC seismic data, which was long back, the Canaro, when they took the seismic, and now the interpretation done by Oilmax. I have shown 3 seismic sections, and you yourself could judge the improvement in the quality of the seismic, and that is predominantly responsible for our current interpretation. The seismic data quality and its interpretation was enhanced not only with some time and depth conversion and the map preparation, but supported by tremendous passage map through the amplitude, and the amplitudes were extracted and cut into slices, and you could see how the old geobodies have changed in their shape, and they have expanded to a great extent, almost 3 times than the geobody which was conceived before the major amplitude analysis. The similar things happen when we see the attribute on the different attributes of the same prospects. This is for the pump, Poisson's ratio and sweetness volume. Both, when we combine them together, this tells a story. And all these additional page which I am saying, they are not mapped before, and we are yet to produce from these places. And the similar story is also there for the other levels. There is a ABO attribute in the BMS, which was attempted for the first time, and it corresponds well with the oil and gas accumulation in this field. When we go to the rock physics, the VPBS and P impedance, mu rho and lambda rho, both tells a story for a strong direct hydrocarbon indication. And most of these are very nicely fitting to the data which we have already seen. And when we take it from the known to the unknown, the match is perfect. Based on all these, we have prepared a prospect map. 23 new prospects identified in different stratigraphic levels. And these are the new prospects. I told you in the beginning, the field allotted to us was 52 square kilometer in area, and all the existing drilled wells, they fall in 10 to 11 square kilometer only. The remaining area where we have drilled the prospects and we have identified the prospects are numbering to 23. This is the huge upside this field has, besides the current production level which we are showing. These are some facility upgradation which have been done quickly. The production separation, fire water system, bath heater, new separator, oil intervention, gas filtration, everything was done in this quick time to upgrade the production and enhance the production to, we are ready to enhance the production further from the field. If you see the reserves and the production curve, the gas plateau rate in this field will go up to 30. The peak condensate rate will be 1500 and the oil rate is 1000. Intentionally, I kept condensate and oil different because there are few oils which have some layers which are only oil bearing. Most of the other oils are condensate. So previous estimation was 39 BCF of gas and 1.7 million barrel of oil and condensate, and currently we stand at 150 BCF of gas and 6.3 million barrel of oil and condensate. Of course, this is our own estimation. We have given it for the third party independent evaluation. After that, we will be in a position to get it to the DGH for approval of the numbers and the final development plan accordingly. There is a four-fold jump in the estimated reserves, which we believe that is possible to be achieved in this field. The contributions to the communities in which we work, that is one of our fastest and quite integral part of the system in the company. The local engagements, in a short span of time, about 100 local employees have been deployed in Amguri site. The small tea estates have been benefited, which were struggling for gas, and their productivity was hampered immensely on this. The local talents have been promoted. 12 engineering students hired from the Jorat Engineering College, initiated setting up a skill development center in Jorat in association with Jorat Engineering College and Jorat Institute of Science and Technology. To add to the contributions, many CSR activities were started in this area to take care of the local sentiments, local people, without which no company or no operation can sustain in those areas. CSR activities such as health camp, vaccination, COVID awareness drive are our regular events. Study aids to the school children such as school bags, lunch box are about 400 local students in 6 schools have been distributed such, providing hospital beds, stretcher, wheelchair, blanket and water purifier to 3 local hospitals, upgrading the lighting and ventilation facilities. The LED lamps and the ceiling fans were provided to the hospitals and the schools,
2 more
upgrading
minutes, please.
upgrading the street lights and upgrading the drinking water facilities were some of our activities by which we have kept the community with us while operating. Friends, to conclude, ideas are nobody's monopoly, and we believe don't follow where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Discovery consists of seeing what everybody has seen, but thinking what nobody has ever thought before. You see things and you say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? Everybody can see the grape, but only few can imagine a wine out of this bottle. Thank you very much. I wish a great journey ahead for all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Bastia, for that motivating presentation. And very nicely, the experience has been shown both in terms of speed of discovery, monetization, and the upsides. Now, the next presenter is Mr. Arunabh Parasher. He's a petroleum engineer with 20 years of experience in both national and international and onshore and offshore. He's presently working as regional head for Northeast for Cairn, new venture projects under OLP and DSF. Stage is there for Mr. Parasher, please.
Thank you very much. This is Arunabh Parasher. So thank you very much for introducing me to the forum. A very warm good afternoon to distinguished panel and all the guests present in this online forum. I won't take much time on this because I know that the entire forum is running a little late behind schedule. So quickly, I'll get into my presentation. So what it talks about is, before I get into Hazarigaon, wanted to, put the context a little bit because this, what I'm going to say now will have a lot of implication on what Hazarigaon is actually giving us as a gift. Not just by, the gas discovery, but there are a lot of other things which is coming along with Hazarigaon. So I'll keep the secret till I come to the end of my slide presentation. So this talks about the presence of Cairn Vedanta in Northeast. A total of 12 blocks which we have got under the OALP, and we have got around one block in the DSF, which is the coveted Hazarigaon block. And we are all across the Upper Assam area in the North Bank as well as in the South Bank, the blocks are what you call spread out. And we definitely have a block in the Tinsukia area, which is a little offset. We have a block in Arunachal and then a block in Tripura. But what is important is today we are going to talk about this particular region. And let me put the pointer for a better representation. So yes, so we are going to talk about this particular area, which is where Cairn Vedanta is putting all its interest, and courtesy is Hazarigaon block. So this small little P which you see where my cursor size is bigger than the block size. So this small little P is actually Hazarigaon, and then all these blocks are around this particular location. The total acreage is around 8,000 square kilometer. And we have a very big what you call drilling campaign. And this has all again happened after we saw what Hazarigaon could give us and what it is going to deliver. And that's why there is a continuous drilling operation which has been put into place as a part of the financial year business plan in this upcoming year. And more than that, because we are situated in such a location close to, the southern part of Assam, the entire setup has been created in Jorhat as the regional headquarters. Now, before we get into the real technicals of all the activities, or specifically the Hazarigaon development activity we did, this particular slide talks about the challenges which any oil company probably is facing, starting with the big brothers, ONGC and Oilmax, us, and all of us. We are facing this big issue of, you have to construct roads, a lot of low-lying areas where where a lot of water clogging is there. Monsoon is a factor which is additionally coming into picture. And over the years, people have developed techniques to handle it, but yes, it still remains a hurdle. And Hazarigaon, for that matter, also had similar hurdles. which were supposed to be taken care of for a result in a record time. And when I show you the timelines, you will understand. So this is just a kind of a, I'm just trying to, take your memories back, that you have to still face this music. You have to still face all these troubles before you get into a piece of success. And just to add on to it, in cases near Jorhat, near Hazarigaon area, we had to build bridges, which were 4 to 5 years, they were just suspended and there was nothing. And then approach roads had to be made. A lot of low-lying areas had to be filled. The rig movements are going to happen only in narrow areas because there are no broad highways available in these small, small villages. And in addition to that, you have to bring a big production facility also, which is to be first transported and then finally get into the commissioning phase. So these are the problems which is there in the past and which is still there, and we are facing it. And still then, even after all facing all these problems, a success story could have been brought in reality. So coming down to Hazarigaon project. So this is kind of, a snapshot which talks about how this was given to us in DSF round 2. After that, a lot of due diligence on the technicals have been done. A lot of data gathering was done through the medium of DGH, NDR. And then subsequently, the well was, worked over. And the block which you can see is close to around 9.12 BCF. This particular prospect, Hazarigaon prospect, with 2P EOR. And what was required was a low, because it's a single well economics, so a very low cost workover activity with all safety systems in place had to be commissioned or had to be implemented. And over and above that, also because it's a single well economic, fast track modular based production facility was supposed to be commissioned. And these were the few challenges apart from the logistic challenges which we had to face. A little bit on the parameters of Hazarigaon. So I just put my cursor back into Hazarigaon. So this is the Hazarigaon area, very close to Borpathar. And a famous place now because Lavlina Borgohain, the Olympic player, she comes out of this place. I think after her, it is Hazarigaon, which is the gas project, which is becoming quite popular in this area. So if you see, this is a 30 square kilometer place area which has been awarded to us with 3 wells, where one well was with gas discovery in the year 2008-9, and the primary fluid which was recorded at that time was only gas. There was no condensate or water reported. The average porosity was close to 24 millidarcy and with a permeability of 24% with a permeability of 80 millidarcy. And as I mentioned before, the EOR was close to around 9.12 BCF. Reservoir depth is primarily in the Sylhet, which is around 1360 meter TVDSS. So once the block was awarded, and before we go into this slide, I would like to pay my sincere thanks to DGH, because without their support, we couldn't have started the project on time, as well as, commission things on time, in a record time rather, and get things in order. And so my special thanks to Anand Gupta sir, also through this forum, I would like to convey that, because under his leadership, all this could have been done successfully. So the entire exercise, primary goal was to do a workover. It was a very old well. There were a lot of possible integrity issues in the well, although it had a Christmas tree, but even the Christmas tree, the annulus valves, they were all rusted because of the time frame we are looking at and the kind of weather we have in Assam. So the first and the foremost thing was carrying out a workover safely. And one of the critical thing to do that was conducting an entire well integrity cycle, which was done successfully in the month of September 2021. Then what we noticed was underbalance perforation was the best choice, and big guns were utilized. These were TCP guns, which were not the case when the well was perforated before. It was primarily through tubing guns, which were used in the past. And we used bigger size 318-inch gun system, which was through TCP and underbalance. Then the well was immediately blocked under a cleanup flow, and then a short well test was conducted. Some of the parameters are already mentioned in my slide. The well actually produced 5 mmscfd of gas. And the other good thing which it did was around 5 to 10 barrels of condensate, which was not the scene before. And this I would take you to, what Bastia sir said, that in the past, the technology was different, and in the present, the technology has really advanced. And this was one of the reasons, because we did the right gun, we used the right gun system, we used the right perforation technology as well as the underbalance perforation, which helped to clean up the formation. What we found that at around only 18 psi drawdown, the well was delivering 5 mmscfd of gas with a THP of close to 2200 psi. So which was very healthy, and the bonus which we got out of it was condensate, which was 10 barrels, and that was not the case 10 years back. In addition to that, although it is not visible in this particular slide, there are, through the logging exercise, what we also found was some additional pays which is still there in this particular well, and we can perforate over the period of the well life. So this talks about the timeline of this entire Hazarigaon project. We started somewhere in September, October, and the entire commissioning of production facility starting from mobilization was done. And this particular facility is a modular based facility which has been brought in so that it has a quick turnaround time. Parallelly, we have been very, lucky, as well as probably, the stars were in our favor. We tried to get the GSA signed with AGCL, and this particular area specifically is strategically so well placed that the big line, which is going from Golaghat to NRL and getting commissioned, is just crossing 3 kilometers away from Hazarigaon block. So AGCL has also, shown their interest, and they have started commissioning the entire pipeline system, along with a cascading setup, which also they want to bring in for the CNG setup, which the state of Assam is going to introduce in Guwahati and Dibrugarh. So Hazarigaon project will have both ways of gas evacuation. We have done the necessary statutory clearances, and we are expecting that this month and early next month, the gas evacuation will commence, as most of the gears have been taken care of. Now, this particular, as I was telling you, I tried to explain how we are placed in this particular, state, as well as rather in this particular region. Now, what Hazarigaon did for us is that it has opened up the entire Pandora box, and now we are looking at from Hazarigaon radiating outwards. And in Hazarigaon block itself, which is just 30 square kilometers, we are seeing additional prospects in this particular area. And that too, courtesy again, the data which has been loaded, as well as again reinterpreted after reprocessing, which has shown some very clear or very concrete areas or prospects which can be a potential drill locations. And as I say that, the first probably, if I'm not wrong, the first what you call in onshore and rather in northeast, the first DSF block where we have started exploration in the month of April. So the well is getting drilled, which is called Rengma, and this Rengma has a cascading effect, has also given us inside the block a greater Rengma, which is the upside part of Rengma, which probably, if we have a success in Rengma, will open up the next well, and we will drill the next well with the same rig. So ultimately, this 30 square kilometer may have 2 to 3 wells producing gas as well as condensate. We do not rule out completely an oil discovery as well, but this is what we are looking at, and thinking that this can bring up a gas hub in this particular area, because along this block there are other operators also who have their fields which are producing fields, and they have gas fields also, which can add up to this particular location and become a gas hub. So
2 more minutes, please.
Yes, and this is what we are also seeing, that in our, in the other areas around this block, 2018/1 is one block, then down south we have another block, block 1. All of them are falling in line with this one small discovery. This is the timeline we are thinking on the Rengma or the Greater Hazarigao. We are expecting that if we have a success, then by September 2022, the second well from the same block, Hazarigao block, will come under production. And that's it from my end. But, something which I couldn't cover due to the paucity of time, and that is all this was possible. One was a huge support, which I already mentioned from DGH. The second thing was a huge support from the support staff of Cairn Vedanta, which is the CSR activities which have been done all across this place, uninterrupted operations till now. And last and not the least, the thing which we in Cairn we boast about is our safety standards, which we have tried to keep intact in this region. Once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Parasher Saab, for this. Thank you, Parasher Saab, for the presentation. I mean, the way things are looking upward, I don't know, Assam will become a big center very soon. Cascading coming and the upside seen are very motivating. The next speaker is Mr. Praveen Tyagi. He is Senior Vice President with Reliance Industries, managing deep water field development projects in KG-D6. He has more than 30 years of experience in E&P sector. He will be presenting on deep water field development in challenging times in Eastern Offshore. Mr. Tyagi, please.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta and Mr. Malik, and very good afternoon to everyone connected over this virtual summit. The topic I'm going to talk about is deep water field development. And the outline of my presentation or discussion is around the challenges which are faced in deep water field development, a bit of overview of what kind of field development we have undertaken, the way we manage the projects, some of the project visuals, and specific challenges and mitigations, in the east coast of India. And finally, the critical success factors. So all development challenges, if we see in a deep water field, the first and the foremost is the capital intensive nature. See, all these projects would involve a high risk capital in exploration, primarily because of the deep water rig spread cost, the rig as well as the services. Also multi-billion-dollar capital overlay for field development and with the risk of a cash sink. Complexity of the development on account of the scale, the execution footprint, and the field architecture. And since this being a deep water field development, we have a limitation in terms of the kind of equipment providers we have. We have very few subsea production system providers. We have very few construction companies who can undertake construction activities in these water depths, and a limited availability of marine vessels. It takes long time to monetize these assets, typically from 8 to 10 years. There are huge technology challenges involved, and interface management, something which is so critical for deep water projects. If you see any deep water project is successful, one of the major factors is if you manage your interfaces well. And last but not the least, in the local environment is the harsh operating area in east coast of India, where limited infrastructure is there, and monsoon or the weather window is only limited to 4 months in which we can do the major construction work. Talking about the KG-D6 block, which is essentially in the KG basin on the east coast of India. It's located in the water depth of 400 meters to 2000 plus meters. Currently, we are producing from 2 fields, namely R cluster and satellite. And one more field is under development, which is called MJ. I'll spend maybe 1 or 2 minutes on this particular slide to give you a sense as to how this integrated development has taken place. So these 3 areas or 3 fields we are talking about, R cluster, satellite cluster, and MJ. R cluster and satellite cluster, as I have mentioned, are already developed and producing around 18 to 19 million of gas per day. These R cluster and satellite both are in ultra deep water, ranging from 2150 to almost 1850 meters in case of satellite cluster, different pressure regimes, and as far as the concept is concerned, in case of ARTUS, it is the subsea facilities are tied back to the existing CRP platform. And in case of satellite cluster, it is tied back to the existing D1, D3 manifold. The third development is around subsea facilities would be tied back to the FPSO, which is being built in Samsung currently. And the gas would be evacuated via an export line to via the existing infrastructure. So the point I want to make is we had an existing hub and through which we have basically tied back these facilities. Just to give you a sense, this is where my pointer is a existing onshore terminal. This is an existing platform called CRP, which is a control and riser platform. Which the distance between these two is around 30 kilometers, and from CRP to this R cluster field is around 60 kilometers, And similarly, this satellite cluster is around 45 kilometers from CRP. So if we see in terms of the facilities which we install, these are the typical wells, rather they are the actual wells. And this is the deep water plumb. All these wells, the production fluid or the gas is routed to this deep water plumb. And via a fully rated pipeline, they are connected to the CRP and then to OT. So this is the evacuation line which is used, around 90 kilometers total in length. And then the important aspect is how do we operate and how do we control these facilities? So that is done through our onshore terminal, and we have the umbilicals, as the word suggests, so critical, running from onshore terminal via CRP and through a different structure to whether it's an R cluster or satellite, or even in case of MJ, through of course a different system. These umbilicals would carry hydraulic fluid, would have electrical fiber optic connectivity, essentially to monitor and operate these facilities. So that is the lifeline for operation of these fields. We believe that key to a successful project execution is how well we have defined it. We do have a defined process in terms of stage gate approach, where we have to undertake certain activities against each of the stage gate. And once we complete those activities, we move to the next one. But the key for a successful project execution also lies in the kind of screening you have done for the development options. And finally, what is the concept you have selected? Because if you do not select the right concept, you may end up in a disaster. And especially in a deep water environment, it is so critical that you get the things right for the first time. Because very expensive, very cost prohibitive to make any kind of remedial measures. Our approach, and we strongly believe in it, is all stakeholders have to pull in for any successful project. And I'm happy to share that when we talked about whether R cluster or satellite cluster, the projects we have executed, be it the JV partners or the contractors and vendors, MOPNG and DGH, specifically DGH in this case, have really supported us, whenever we had the difficulty, especially in the time of pandemic, where we needed their support badly in terms of mobilizing some of the people. And Dr. Gupta had been very instrumental in helping us in that. So it's basically one team from concept to commissioning stage we follow. Just to give you a sense in terms of the execution centers, the global footprint, if we see, virtually many countries in Europe, starting from Germany to Italy to France, North America, Southeast Asia, you name the country where we had this execution centers to undertake these two large deep water development projects. How do we manage and how do we execute the project? Just few pointers in this respect, that well-defined guiding principles and project objectives are the first thing which we debate in-house and agree to. The well thought out of contracting strategy, complying to PSC guidelines. A very important aspect of appointing, engaging reputed engineering consultants and also PMC, CV and MWS Why this is so important? Maybe not in terms of the cost, because that won't be a bigger cost in terms of overall capex, but the quality of the people, the quality of company you engage ultimately would help you executing the work correctly. Validation and assurance processes at various stages. Another thing which we do differently is the way we form our project management team. We do not have a hierarchical structure that we have a project management team and then we have a PMC and then we have a third agency. We have an integrated team in which for different levels and different positions, the best person would lead that aspect. So we had people from PMC, our core RIL team, and then we formulated this integrated project management team for execution of projects, where the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, and they are supported by the subject matter experts, whether it's HSE, quality, or project controls or interface related. We deploy CVA and MWS. CVA, which is not a mandatory requirement, but for our own assurance purposes, we have a certification and verification agency who would look after each aspect, be it design or installation or even pre-commissioning aspects. We keep a very tight control over interfaces, as I mentioned in the previous slide. This is really, something so critical. Sometimes what happens that we give a job to a contracting company, sometimes an integrated work, sometimes maybe in different packages. But the key is how effectively and you can manage those interfaces. So this is something which we try and manage ourselves. And this time we have managed it differently. We had a web-based online system through which all stakeholders, whether it's an installation contractor or a subsea equipment supplier or a CV agency or us, all were on the same page at the same time, looking after those interfaces and closing them in timely manner. Quality is critical for deep water development, so we follow 3-tiered approach and a comprehensive testing philosophy.
2 minutes, please.
So I would just go through this project execution and management part. Is basically we involved OEM right from the beginning till end. We have people on the construction barges in different locations. We try and manage the SIMOS between drilling and construction vessels by having an integrated and a robust execution schedule and monitor the projects on regular basis. And the last but not the least on this is our involvement of operations team from pre-commissioning stage to smooth handover. Just a quick project visuals which would say more than what words can express. So DLV 2000 and Odisha, two of the best vessels in the market, we had engaged for the purpose of installation of a pipeline in the deep waters. We had a vessel for the diving work and for light construction work. We had this cyclone in 2020, and we had this Asia Pride, the accommodation barge next to our platform, and the anchor, it was an anchored vessel, and we had to take out those anchors and move away. And the weather had become choppy. We had lost a lot of time, but we could manage to get another vessel, which is on the right-hand side, and with a state-of-art motion-controlled gangway, we could still complete the work. Some pictures on the equipments which we have installed. They look small on these pictures, but they are pretty big in terms of weight and dimensions. The one which is on the right-hand side is almost 200 tons. The portion yellow would only be above seabed. The remaining 15 meters would be below the seabed on which the structures would come. These are the structures, some of structures we have shown. The right one hand side is the one which is the deep water plumb for our cluster. I can give you an idea of the dimension it's not as much, but close to half of the football field. Those are the kind of dimensions and weight we are talking about. When we talk about the complexity of these equipments, it has kilometers and kilometers of tubing and cabling and almost 200 walls which are to operate. We can't afford to take any chance that they won't work in subsea. Another thing which has never been done anywhere in the world is that we have installed these piggyback lines in 19-20 meters of water depth. Nobody has done it so far. And you can see from the picture on the right-hand side, the piggyback line is just in 12 o'clock position. So that is the kind of precision which is required for installing these facilities. 108-meter long riser installed on a live platform, first time. And with the help of multiple vessels and divers. Second one is the picture which is just a smallest of the plate, and you can see the people, behind that and see the size. The bigger plates are much larger and heavier. Basically, they connect the pipeline, and through the jumpers, which is on the right hand side, they get connected to the your structures. The umbilicals which I have talked about, they are length of the order of almost 30 kilometers each, which can only come on carousel, and there's a state-of-art mechanism to lay these cables so that these umbilicals, and they are not cables, they are steel tube umbilicals with number of tubes, including maybe 12 to 13 steel tubes within those umbilicals, to lay them carefully on the seabed, and while also monitoring it during the lay process. And the CRP, which was, we had done some modification work, and the onshore terminal in Gadimoga. I have talked about the challenges and mitigation, so I won't talk much, maybe pick up one or two. Maybe one I'll pick up is COVID, because if you see both Art Cluster and Satellite, Art Cluster was commissioned in December 2020 and Satellite in 2021. In fact, Satellite project we commissioned despite being in thick of pandemic in a record time, in fact, 2 months ahead of schedule. We had taken a lot of measures, not only in terms of quarantine and following COVID protocol, but reaching out to our global suppliers as to how to manage those supplies, how to get those people. And in this respect, DGH also helped us a lot. Another aspect I would just pick up is this high reservoir pressure, because our facilities are now tied to the earlier existing facilities, which were at a lower pressure. So we had this HIP system. For Art Cluster, this spec brake is provided on the platform, and in case of Satellite field, it is subsea HIPs, which has never been tried in this region, and both of them are operating very well. SIMOS we have talked about, and just one more aspect I'll pick is that the outbreak had happened in Italy when we had this project. The wall supplier refused to honor the commitment. We had to go to an alternate vendor, and we made huge efforts to get those equipments in time. And interface management I have already talked about. So last slide, I won't read through this, but HSC planning, engagement with stakeholders, right equipment, right people, close communication, interface management, real-time monitoring, and last but not the least, always have a plan B ready. This was our motto all the time. We always thought as to how to create another float, how to create another contingency measure we can bring in. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyagi Sahab, for taking us through the $1 billion investment, the management techniques applied, and risk mitigation measures. It was a wonderful presentation. The next presentation is by Mr. Santanu Mukherjee. He is Chief General Manager, Geology at ONGC. He has more than 32 years of experience as petroleum geologist in ONGC, with knowledge and experience in all domains of petroleum exploration and development. He will be presenting on ONGC's experience on first DSF field monetization, Chinewala Tibba.
A very good afternoon to the session chair, the co-chair, all my fellow presenters and participants in this round of Upstream Ahead session. My presentation will be on ONGC's experience on the monetization of Chinewala Tibba DSF. As I understand that we are running behind the schedule, and I will be trying to be as brief as possible and pointed as possible, and I'll stick to my timelines. This is my next slide. So I'll briefly touch upon starting with the regional geological setting of the field, the details and reservoir character of the Chinewala Tibba field, the major challenges that we faced while developing this small field in the remote locality, the monetization plan we have chalked out for this, along with the present project status and the way forward. Next, please. Well, starting with the regional geological setting, this Chinewala Tibba field is located in the Jaisalmer basin in the western Rajasthan shelf. which along with the adjacent Indus shelf of Pakistan forms a major petroleum province of lower Indus basin. So in the adjacent Pakistan, we have a number of fields in the proximity which have volumes of around 1 to 3 TCF respectively in fields like Miano, Kadangwari and Rehmat. The Chinnawala Tibba field in the eastern part of these prolific gas fields is again surrounded by fields like Kharatar, Ghotaru, Manera Tibba, Bankia, and the SGL field towards the south. Further toward the east, we have the Bagewala field in the Bikaner Nagaur basin and the prolific Barmer basin towards the south. Next, please. Now, the Western Rajasthan shelf basically comprises of 3 sedimentary basins. On the eastern part is the Bikaner Nagaur basin, which is by far the largest basin, primarily a Proterozoic basin, which has some limited hydrocarbon accumulations within the Proterozoics in the Bagewala area. To the western part is the Jaisalmer basin, which hosts this Chinnawala Tibba field. This basin is of around 44,000 square kilometer in area. And this is separated from the Bikaner Nagaur basin toward the east by the prominent high, the Devikot Nachna high. Further south is the Barmer basin, which is differentiated by the Barmer high. If you see the regional gravity map on the east, on the right-hand side, we see that the major depot centers are very well marked. The Barmer basin is one of the major depot centers. When we come towards the Jaisalmer part, we have the 2 Shagar depression as well as the Mia Jalar depressions. To the northeast of it, we have the prominent Jaisalmer Mari high, which separates this from the Kishangarh shelf towards the further north. And the Chinnawala Tibba field is located in the rising flank of the Shagar depression. Next, please. Now, coming to the basic geological understanding for this area, this basin evolved with a polyhistoric evolution, starting from a rift phase, which from the Permo-Triassic to up to Middle Jurassic, followed by the late Jurassic to Cretaceous, the carbonate, the passive margin setting, and then we have the tertiary foreland setup. The primary reservoirs in this area are within the Parivar and Lower Goru, that is in the Cretaceous, and also in the Baisakhi Badesar in the late Jurassic. Although we have evidences of hydrocarbon in the Jaisalmer, the commerciality of that has to be established yet. The major source areas are primarily the marine organic rich shales of the Baisakhi Badesar and the Parivar formations, and the regional seal of the Upper Goru shales, and provide the capping. So coming to the total potential of this part of the basin.
कनेक्ट हो जाता है, आपने मुझे भेजा नहीं है तब.
In terms of the resources of this part is around 900 MMT of oil equivalent, of which we have only converted around 10%. So huge potential exists primarily in Cretaceous and Jurassic, which holds around 280 to around 135 respectively of YTF. Now coming to the figure on the right, this is the major thickness of source map within the Parivar and Baisakhi Badesar formation, which shows that the major area in the Shagar low is the major kitchen area, which provides the which is the major area which supplies hydrocarbon towards further northeast. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Next slide, please. Yes. Now coming to the Chinnawala Tibba field, the details of this field at a glance. This field is primarily located in the northwestern part of the Jaisalmer Mari High. It is a structural entrapment against the north-south oriented faults. And if you see the seismic sections, that clearly depicts that the structure extends with different structural amplitudes, right from the Baisakhi Badesar to Lower Goru levels and further younger. Next slide, please. So So the major successful wells that we have drilled in this area, the first well that gave the discovery was the Chinnewala Tibba 1, which was drilled in the year 2003-4, which led to discovery of gas from G23 reservoir of the Lower Goru, as well as the H2 pay of the Parivar formation, with gas rates varying from 68,000 to around 80,000 cubic meter per day from both the objects. Then subsequently in 2007, we drilled the second well Chinnewala Tibba 2, which also produced gas, again from H2 Parivar reservoir at the rate of around 68,000, and from G23 reservoir of the Lower Goru with a rate of around 43,000 cubic meter per day through 6 MMP. Subsequently, during the period of 2007 to 9, ONGC has drilled around three wells, 81, LT1 and RT1 in the vicinity of Chinnewala area to delineate the extension of these gas pays. Most of the wells were not commercially successful. However, there were some gas shows in the well LT1. Subsequently, in the year 2012, the well CT4 was drilled to the north of the CT2 fault block, where again gas was established within the Parivar reservoirs of H3. That was the new reservoir pay that was opened up. Around 25,000 cubic meter per day of gas was from H3, as well as from H2, which produced around 15,000 cubic meter of gas. Next slide. Now coming to the electrolog characters of the CT1 producing sands, there are primarily two reservoirs, the Parivar H2 reservoir with a gross thickness of around 8 meters. The initial testing rate was 80,000 and the AOFP was around 7,84,000. And for the Lower Goru, the initial rates were around 68,000. 1,80,000 AOFP was for this particular zone. And the permeability recorded from this was varying between around 5 to 7 for the Parivar and around 10 millidarcy for the Lower Goru formations. Next one. Coming to CT2, the second well, again there were three objects which gave gas from this well. Parivar H2, it has given a gas around 68,000. AOFP was 2,70,000. Lower Goru, AOFP around 35,271. It's a slightly less. For Lower Goru G23, the rate was 72,100. And the permeability again was in the range of 2 to 2 in the case of Lower Goru, where the Parivar we have much better permeability around 34 millidarcies. Next one. Coming to the reservoir properties, the average depth of occurrence of the reservoirs varies between 1600 to 1800 meters. They are all structural entrapments. The initial pressures recorded in the range of 174 to 188 kc. The temperature is around 81 degrees. The gross reservoir thickness is around 20 to 25 meters of sand with net pay thickness of 5 to 10 meters. The average reservoir porosity is 20% and average permeability is around 31 millidarcies. And all these layers have gas shell contacts. Next. Now coming to the composition of the Chinnewala Tibba gas, as we see on the left hand side is the gas composition of Chinnewala Tibba 1, to the right is CT2. For the Parivar reservoir, the net calorific value is of the order of around varies between 7,100 to 7,800 kilocalories per cubic meter. For the sand of G23 and G24, there is a slightly higher nitrogen content as compared to the Parivar reservoir. So the net calorific value comes to around 7,000 kilocalories per cubic meter. That is one of the challenges while developing this particular field. Because of this low calorific value, there was a economic criteria had to be. There were a number of iterations to be done on how to make this economically viable. Next one. Now, coming to the gas volume that has so far been estimated by way of drilling around 8 to 9 wells in the entire Chinnewala Tibba field, the total volume is of the order of around 2,400 million metric cubic meters, out of which around 2,000 million metric cubic meter falls within the area of DSF2, that is 74 square kilometer area. While evaluating the methodology for field development, what measure that we have adopted is that since this is an area still under a lot of exploration scope is available in this area, we had a two-pronged approach. First, whatever gas we have established, we develop that in a phase-wise manner. At the same time, we have a lot of potential for upside development of gas pools in the vicinity that will be tapped in a sequential order through appraisal wells. So that extra volume of gas will definitely add to the techno-economics of the field development. That was the approach that was taken for this field. Next. Now coming to the details of the timelines, the field was awarded under DSF round 2 and RSC was signed in 2019. The MWP commitment was drilling of 12 appraisal or development wells and initiation of production by 3 years. The extended development period is up to 8 September of 2024 and production is going to commence from July 2022 from this field in phase-wise manner. Initial phase 1 production will start with 2 existing wells, CT1 and CT2, along with 2 development wells. And then subsequently, depending on the field behavior, as well as with new volumes from the appraisal wells, appraisal locations, the next phase of development will be initiated subsequently. Next one. Now, coming to the major challenges for monetization, that the first challenge that we mentioned already is that nitrogen content, varying between 20 to 60%. That has an effect on the techno-economics. Being a DSF field, we have the marketing freedom. So the nearby, the gas will be supplied to the RRU VUNL, the Rajasthan Rajya Vidyut Utpadan Limited, which is taking gas at the rate of $5 per MMBTU. Taking into consideration the calorific value adjusted price, it comes to around 4.37 for the Chinnawala Tibba gas. The second constraint is its remote location. The nearest facility available is the Gamnewala GCS, which is around 42 kilometers from the cluster of CT1 and CT2. The another challenge that was inbuilt into this was that the Manhera Tibba, which ONGC had discovered way back in the 90s, the field was put on production. But subsequently from 2018, after producing around 296 MMSCM of gas, the production stopped because of very high dew point. So as a part of the upgradation of Gamnewala GCS, this was also taken into consideration that the dehydration plant was also a part of this, so that along with the CT gas production, the production from Manhera Tibba will also be resumed at the same time. Next one. Now this is the details of the development plan that we have chalked out. The initial production, as I told you, will start with 4 wells, the CT1, 2, as well as the 2 new development wells. And the
2 more minutes, gas, please.
Yeah, I'll try to finish it. Cumulative gas production is around 656 MMSCM, which envisage peak production of around 220,000 cubic meter per day. Simultaneously, 3 appraisal locations are under drilling. 1 location has been drilled and 2 locations have been firmed up for drilling. This will assess the upside potential in the nearby fault blocks, 1 to the central block, 1 to the northern block, and 1 to the western part of the CT main field. And then subsequently, the gas production will begin with multiple wells, both in the CT1, 2, as well as in the central block, as well as the northern block. Next one. Now, this is the production profile that has been envisaged, a 12-year profile consisting of 4 wells initially. Next, please. Next slide. And this is the upside variant, where there is a possibility of upside of around 1200 MMSCM production. This will include 12 wells, 2 existing plus 7 new wells and 3 appraisal locations. Over a period of 12 years, the cumulative gas is around 1274 expected, and the peak is expected to be more than 4 lakh cubic meter per day. Next. This is the evacuation plan that has been drawn. And there will primarily there will be filled manifolds kept at Chinnawala Tibba, from where through 4-inch pipelines the gas will go to the 42-kilometer pipeline will take the gas to Gamnewala. Then after that it will be diverted through 2-phase separators. Existing capacity of Gamnewala is around 2 lakh cubic meter per day. That is being upgraded to accommodate around 4.5 lakh of the upside variant of production. And then after separation of gas and water and condensate to separator, the gas will be saturated, dehydrated, and then through the GAIL pipeline, it will be supplied to the RRVU NL. Next one. So presently, these creation and upgradation of surface facilities are going on as per schedule. The laying of pipeline is almost 90% completed. The upgradation facility of the facilities at GCS Gamnewala includes the upgradation of the gas compression facility to accommodate around 5 lakh cubic meter per day. The hooking up of high pressure gas lines, 3-phase high pressure separators, installation of filled manifolds. Then upgradation of the existing flare line capacity is also part of it. Nitrogen and CO2 separation plants. The installation of gas dehydration unit will take care of both Chinnamala Tibba as well as the resumption of production from the Mandhera Tibba fields. And finally, the gas compression system for transporting the gas to GC, the GAIL trunk pipeline. This entails an overall development cost of around 168 crores. Next one. So the coming to the present status, already the two existing wells, CT1 and CT2, have been re-entered with workover rigs and have gas flow has been established. They are ready for production to start production once the surface facilities are completed. The first appraisal well has also been drilled. The first development well is under drilling. The second well will be completed by June. And the two more appraisal locations are lined up for drilling in this particular year that will assess the upside gas volume in this area. The laying of gas pipeline and upgradation facilities are at an advanced stage and will be completed by July. And the first gas production will start from the 4 wells, the CT1, CT2, as well as the 2 development wells by July 2022. Now, with this and as well as with simultaneous exploration and addition of new volumes, the realization of the upside volume, the gas production is expected to increase. And as per the plan, we have a plan of around 150 MMS CM of gas by the year 2025, including the contribution from Chinnamala Tibba as well as the production from Mandhera Tibba, Bakia, Ghotado fields, as well as the other adjacent fields. So with that, we come to the end of this presentation. I thank you, the coordinator of this session chair, and all the fellow participants for a very good discussion and good session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukherjee Sahab, for your exhaustive presentation. And I'm sure this field will see light of the day. And one good reason was the gas pricing, what you will get as a result of this EF. I think we have no questions here in the chat box. So I think, so I'll request session chair, Dr. Anand Gupta, to sum up, please.
Thank you, Malik Sahab, and thank you to all the speakers for very good and very useful presentation. In fact, I would like to say that when few days back, when Malik Sahab came to the office, and then he said one such session has to be done, where we have to discuss about the monetization and which papers we can get. So I told him that recently some good work has been done in this difficult time of pandemic, and some of these fields have been commissioned. So I think there will be no better time than this to share some of this good work which has been done. And I immediately listed 4 or 5 papers, and he said, you have made my work very easy actually. And that's what we saw today actually. And then this actually shows the, the kind of challenges even though we had, but this industry has delivered. And today's example and presentation by all of you was a test of, that kind of situation. As Mr. Bastia in his paper said about the Samgudi field, and he said during the peak pandemic time, the PI transfer took place actually. That was done at the time, and it was a record time. In 30-35 days it has been done. And fortunately, I had an opportunity to see that place and the kind of good thing what has been demonstrated with all kind of safety and in spite of very, very difficult situation which has been delivered over there. And the kind of upside potential which it holds, as he rightly said, that about 4 times the potential which is there. And I hope that this gas and oil which is being produced over there will change the whole ecosystem over there. And I thank Mr. Ravi Bastia for such beautiful presentation. And we expect that this RFDP, which is going to come shortly, will bring a lot of good opportunities in the times to come in our eastern region fields. Thank you very much, Mr. Bastia, once again for this very useful and very informative presentation, which I think all the audience must have liked it actually. We saw a very good presentation by Mr. Arunabh Parasher in Hazarigaon. And I think that's also a very good first success story in DSF. It will be the first DSF field which is going to be commissioned. And the kind of pain which you have taken and the kind of coordination which Mr. Parasher has done, I must compliment the team of Vedanta. And whatever support was required, we tried our best actually. But as I say, best is yet to come. So in our side also, there is opportunity for doing better in terms of providing the support to all our fellow colleagues who are actually operating in the field. So, Mr. Parasher, thank you very much. Looking forward for the day when actually it starts delivering the gas to the nearby fields actually. And I saw over there that consumers are already available. And one very good first thing which they are already doing, the well has been spud on 30th of March, and I hope in 35 days this well is going to be completed. And as he rightly showed, the leads which are going to come over there from this exploratory well, I think will add to new laurels in the eastern region, as all of us say that Assam is full of oil and the kind of things which is there. So giving the kind of support and environment, I think which will also lead to good new opportunities in the eastern region. So once again, thank you, Mr. Parasher, for sharing your presentation and the kind of work which is being done over there in eastern region by Vedanta, setting some of the new first over there. We also saw a very good presentation. Thank you, Mr. Tyagi, for this informative and useful presentation. And this is also a very big example that in full pandemic, how the project has been commissioned ahead of schedule. In fact, 3 months ahead of the schedule, which was planned, it was commissioned. The teamwork which was done over there, we also tried from our side the kind of support, whatever was required, whatever little bit we could do over there, we tried to provide. Some of the first which you have done, the challenges which you met, the field is now producing almost 20% of the country's gas. And shortly we are going to see another field which is going to be commissioned. The kind of interface management which you highlighted, so very challenging, but so very important. And the way that your company has delivered it over there is very useful and very informative. I had an opportunity to see the work which is being done over there. And I feel that the kind of knowledge which you have generated and the kind of experience which you have gathered over there must be shared with the other companies and operators. We'll try to have a platform where little bit more extensively or intensively we'll discuss some of this good work which you have done. So thank you very much, Mr. Tyagi, for also sharing some of the very good photographs, which I think a very large number of our audience which is listening to this presentation must have provided a good insight and understanding. Thank you to Mr. Mukherjee from ONGC side for sharing this field which you are commissioning over there. A few days back, our team had an opportunity to see it over there. And this first from ONGC side, the field which you are commissioning, and I understand by June 22, it will deliver the kind of challenges, including the gas compositions which have been met. And it's very, very difficult circumstances over there. My fellow colleagues showed some of the photographs and I showed, I saw it. I also have a desire to see this field. Other three I have seen. So I think this is very, very important job. The team led by, asset manager along with the support from the board level, which is being provided for commissioning of DSF fields. And this is what it shows that actually the DSF policy finally actually is trying to deliver because the kind of fiscal terms which has given the space to all. We saw 3 presentations, one by the NOC, ONGC, we saw from Vedanta, from Reliance, and one medium-sized operators who have commissioned this Amgudi field. So our industry has got a scope for everybody and there is space for everybody. Together we can do and together we can deliver. All of you may be aware that 21-22, after continuous decline for 10 years in terms of gas production, this year has seen a reversal in gas production. So we have finished the year 21-22 with 34 BCM, and compared to last year when it was 28.7 BCM. So there is an increase of 18.5%. So 2 of the operators who are sitting here have contributed in this. Third, Mr. Parasher, and the other one is also going to contribute in the year 22-23. And we hope the plan which has been prepared of 40 MMT of oil and 50 BCM of gas must be achieved with support from everybody. And government is also very keen that all the support is provided. DSF3 bid round and CBM bid round. We already launched. We hope to complete it by 30th of May in terms of bidding and completing the award by 30th of June. So in the years to come, these bid rounds will also contribute, and some of the fields which are lined up from DSF 1 and 2 is also going to contribute apart from NOC's fields and producing fields. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for this opportunity to the organizers. Thank you very much, Mr. Malik, and thank you very much to all the presenters for this nice presentations. I hope we have tried to explain what all good work in very, very difficult circumstances people have delivered. in this energy, which is the very most important thing for the country, which showed to all of us in this pandemic times. Thank you very much. Thank you once again.